Good morning. Welcome to the 7th Innovation Quest, the Patras IQ. Now we are continuing with the second session in today's program. From 10 o'clock until 2 o'clock, we are going to have a discussion and presentation of results related on the enhancing the innovation and entrepreneurial capabilities of Hellenic higher education. We start first with a presentation of the results of the higher education Innovate study of the Greek higher education, and the welcome address could be from myself and Professor Christos Bouras. I think you should make an address. Huh? Okay. So I will say some words. I was not prepared to give this short reference in English, but I will try to make an introduction on about the University of Patras in order that our invited experts from OECD could realize the strength of the University of Patras. University of Patras, we have 35 departments. We have 50 undergraduate program with 50,000 students. We have 49 postgraduate programs with more than 2,200 postgraduate students, 31 doctoral programs with more than 2,000 PhD candidates, more than 1,600 researchers, 700 staff, academic staff. We are also the University of Patras has established the industrial doctoral thesis, and this is an initiative that there is currently an effort by the other universities in Greece to also implement this applied research, linking the companies with the university and the research which is done, which is carried out by the universities. This 7th Innovate Quest has a long now tradition, and we will try to make it more permanent in the next steps. This year is a really strange year due to the COVID-19 restrictive conditions, but we hope that with this digital and virtual combination of presentations, the effort also this year will be successful. And without saying anything more, I would like to invite the Deputy Minister of Education and Religions Affairs, and who is responsible at the same time for higher education, to take the floor and give his introductory remark. Professor Syrigos.
Well, good morning to everybody, dear Rector, dear Vice Rector, dear President of the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education, dear Mrs. Christophidou, dear Mr. Ahmad. Dear members of our advisory board, dear guests, it is an honor to have you here today with us, virtually and in person, to celebrate the conclusion of the Innovate review of the Hellenic higher education and discuss the next steps. Innovation and entrepreneurship have not necessarily been among the everyday themes of Greek academic life. On the contrary, entrepreneurship has often been considered a theme totally irrelevant to universities, perhaps even inappropriate for the academic environment. Innovation has often been an activity deployed within laboratories without linkages and diffusion to the outside world, not even within the academic environment. These conditions have changed very much in the past years, as it is also documented by the evidence gathered by the Greek team which prepared the Hellenic Innovate background report. Entrepreneurship is being taught in classes, discussed as a career option with students. Entrepreneurial capabilities of the students are at focus with the offer of hands-on courses and activities. At the same time, the Greek startup scene is vibrant, while the system is maturing with the gradual establishment of various forms of funding to serve all stages of the entrepreneurial journey needs. Within this field, innovation is relatively favored. The innovation and entrepreneurial capabilities of students are starting to be part of curricula's aims. Still, the notion of innovation is not relevant in many classes of our universities, and it largely remains within labs. Although progress has been made, our country is still considered, as we have seen in the maps that Vice Minister Christos showed to us, is still considered a moderate innovator according to the Innovation Scoreboard, while at the same time our academic score is our HEIs and academics score high in quality and volume at the international academic publishing field. Thus, academic innovation does not seem to trickle down to society, diminishing its potential for growth. A strong effort is needed to address these challenges. We firmly stand by the design and introduction of evidence-based policies. In this vein, the re-establishment of the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education has been the embodiment of this commitment. Greek higher education institutions are already drafting their strategies for the next years and will be financed to achieve the concrete goals they set. Professor Mitkas, President of the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education, will be discussing the Innovation Index to be applied within the next session we are organizing today. The strategic plan for the next years for Hellenic higher education is being drafted by the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education based on data from the Hellenic and international fields. We expect that the conclusions and considerations of this review will also provide valuable input at policy-making and institutional level. The Ministry of Education and Religious Affairs has introduced legislation to support innovation, such as the Centers of Excellence of Hellenic universities, which will also be funded by the Strategic Reference Framework, while a strong set of projects, such as industrial PhDs and clusters of excellence, will be channeled through the recovery and resilient mechanism. Also, in a concerted effort with the Ministry of Development, we have prepared the newly legislated framework for spin-offs. It has been voted last week in the Parliament, while a total of 30 million euros, 15 million from each ministry, will finance the full spectrum of innovation activities within HEIs and research centers, from teaching, activation, and idea generation to patents and licensing agreements through the technology transfer offices. We believe that the considerations of the Innovate review will provide insights and intrigue new configurations for the implementation of these projects by our HEIs. Such kind of engagement, concerted effort and funding is what we consider necessary to achieve the critical mass needed to reverse the trend so far and enable our higher education institutions to claim a vital part in the transformation of their surroundings ecosystems and to serve society at large. The implementation of the Innovate review of the Hellenic higher education has been a reflection of this kind of effort. In a twist of the Innovate methodology, endorsed by the European Commission and the OECD, we included also 3 large research centers in the Hellenic review in order to achieve a holistic understanding that could be the basis for an all-encompassing approach. Our close collaboration with the General Secretary of Research and Innovation and the Deputy Minister's Office has been key to this, and on this note, I would like to thank both Deputy Minister Christos Dimas and General Secretary Thanasis Kyriazis for their contribution and the collaboration of our teams in this review, as well as former Deputy Minister for Higher Education, Professor Vasilis Digalakis, who supported the review process from its beginning. I would also like to deeply thank the members of our advisory board who have dedicated valuable time and effort to provide feedback and insights. Some of them are with us today. A fact promising an interesting discussion of the review results. Finally, I would like to congratulate the team of both our ministry's officials who have dedicated their time, effort, and expertise to prepare the initial background report and support the implementation of this project. Without further ado, I would like to invite Mrs. Christophidou and Mr. Ahmad to address our event. We are very honored to have you with us today.
Thank you very much for the floor, dear Deputy Minister Syrigos, dear Nadim Ahmad, dear colleagues.
For being here with us today. So I would like to welcome Ms. Christophidou, Director General of Education, Youth, Sports and Culture from the European Commission. The floor is yours.
Thank you for the floor, dear Deputy Minister Syrigos, dear Nadim Ahmad, dear colleagues. I am delighted to be here with you today, even from Brussels, as we are launching the HE Innovate review of Hellenic higher education. I would like to convey my heartfelt gratitude to the Greek Ministry of Education and Religious Affairs and to all Greek partners whose contributions have been essential to completing this HE Innovate review. Thank you also to our OECD colleagues for the close and fruitful collaboration under the exceptional circumstances of the pandemic. It is really wonderful to see that Greece is now part of the HE Innovate review family. This makes a total of 13 countries that have brought together their experience, knowledge, and best practices to spur entrepreneurship and innovation in their higher education institutions' agenda. The findings also come at an opportune time for Greece as it advances with its recovery plan and structural reforms, which importantly address higher education as well. As shown in the review, Greek higher education institutions and research centers have proven their resilience throughout the pandemic. Let me illustrate. First, a majority of higher education institutions and research centers engaged actively with regional, national, and international partners. This is crucial for maintaining knowledge exchange between institutions, for building innovative and entrepreneurial capacity, and for nurturing talent across the country. Second, Greek institutions have increased efforts to enhance and promote new forms of internationalization. They can now offer education in a foreign language and generate joint programs with international partners. Third, It is reassuring to note that higher education institutions and research centers have been actively developing their collaborative networks, leveraging European policies such as the Smart Specialization Strategy or the European universities. All of this shows that Greece is heading in the right direction in terms of developing its higher education ecosystem. Nevertheless, there's always space to learn and grow further collectively. Momentum is building in Greece to develop entrepreneurial teaching and learning. It is crucial to turn best practice of collaboration into established institutional culture, and this way further reinforce your innovation ecosystem. It is here that HE Innovate can support you as a guiding framework to inspire and assist policymakers and higher education institutions to stimulate innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm confident that the recommendations formulated in the country review report will help you reach your entrepreneurial and innovation objectives. Our goal for the future of HE Innovate is to further scale up the use of the tool in order to achieve a greater structural impact. We plan to start a revision of the HE Innovate dimensions at the beginning of next year, and the experience of the Greek partners will certainly help us accelerate this process. But HE Innovate is not all we can offer in support of boosting innovation and entrepreneurship in higher education. The European Institute for Innovation and Technology, the EIT, brings together partners along the whole innovation chain into knowledge and innovation communities, KICs. The EIT launched a pilot call named HEI Initiative, Innovation Capacity Building for Higher Education, inviting European higher education institutions to design action plans that will improve their entrepreneurial and innovation capacities. This initiative already funds 24 projects, supporting 142 institutions across 32 countries, and Greek institutions have already been actively involved. Recently, the EIT launched a second call for innovative capacity building, and I'm glad that this event here today will give the opportunity to discuss it in further detail. Another great action is the Alliances for Innovation within the Erasmus Plus program, which brings together higher education and vocational education and training institutions, along with enterprises, to work on innovative projects. Greek institutions were actively involved in the predecessor action known as Knowledge Alliances, which ran from 2014 to 2020. At the moment, the first call for Alliances for Innovation is being evaluated, but I'm pleased to announce that among more than 300 applications from across Europe, we see a good number of Greek ones too. All these initiatives will support also the forthcoming European Strategy for Universities, an ambitious flagship to strengthen the role of the 4 core missions of universities: education, research, innovation, and service to society. We look forward to adopting this strategy at the beginning of 2022, in just a few weeks. The 4 core missions play an essential role in responding to the most pressing societal challenges. But of course, we all know that nothing happens without funding. In the shadow of the pandemic, the EU launched Next Generation EU, an 800 billion euro fund to support innovative practices for the twin green and digital transitions. We're still assessing national recovery and resilience plans, but I'm already glad to note that member states foresee investments and measures related to education and skills, covering all levels of education. Still, dear colleagues, today we're here to celebrate HE Innovate. What is more, we're celebrating the fact that Greece is a step closer to better supporting its higher education institutions to be more innovative and entrepreneurial. At the European Commission, we will continue supporting you and facilitating the sharing of experience and best practices. Your commitment to build on this work will be crucial. The path lies ahead. And as you walk it, we're proud and happy that your efforts will strengthen Europe's innovation ecosystem and will contribute to growth across the continent. Thank you.
Much, Ms. Christophidou. I would like now to call to the stand. Okay, we have a small delay with Mr. Ahmad. Thus, I would like to call to the stand Mr. Nadim Ahmad, Deputy Director of the Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions and Cities of the OECD, who has been responsible for the implementation of the HE Innovate review of Hellenic higher education.
Okay, well, I can't get into my computer, so never mind. So let me begin by thanking you all for being here, but Deputy Minister Syrigos, Rector General Christophidou, but all of you as well who've been part of this process. And it's an enormous pleasure to be here with you physically. I mean, this is one of the first meetings that I've had over the last few months that allows us to have this physical engagement. So I'm very, very delighted to be here. So Kalimera, I guess, is the starting point for this conversation. I also wanted to thank the University of Patras for hosting us in this magnificent event. The screens behind me are second to none. I'm very impressed with the whole organisation of this venue. But I also wanted to thank everybody that's been part of this process. The Ministry for Education and Religious Affairs, you yourself, Vice Minister, Lena as well, for the tremendous collaboration, but also everybody that's been involved in this process. It's a huge effort that we've undertaken with all of you to bring the HE Innovate programme and the review that we're talking about today here to the table. I mean, one of the other things that I think is particularly relevant in this conversation, of course, is taking place today in Greece, the home of academia. And that for me, I think, is extra special because, of course, to some extent, we go back thousands of years, and this is where it all started, this notion of academia all started. So today's event is the fourth of basically this current programme of the HE Innovate review, which includes Lithuania, Slovenia, and Sweden. Okay, this is what happens when you haven't got the notes in front of you. You forget some of the countries. But I mean, although it's the last, it's certainly not the least. I think all of the four different reviews that we've conducted over this programme have all fed into each other, but also fed into a large body of work. I mean, this is basically the 13th of the HE Innovate reviews, and those 13 reviews have all basically created additional momentum around the importance of entrepreneurial education and innovation in basically higher education institutes. And I guess the real, I think, emphasis that I wanted to make today is in terms of how well that is happening within the Greek education system. And I guess as a testament to that is the fact that we undertook this review during the height of a pandemic that ordinarily would have made basically this type of engagement, this type of collaboration, very challenging and very difficult, but it wasn't. It was actually, to some extent, better for us in terms of the ability for the higher education system in Greece to demonstrate its flexibility, its adaptability, its readiness to engage and capitalize on digital tools. And digital tools, of course, are one of the new pillars that we've introduced within the HE Innovate system. And I think that testament to the fact that we had that very strong collaboration, and testament to the fact that the report itself has been so strong and powerful in its messaging, is a reflection of just how strong the capacities are within the Greek education system. Now, just to perhaps give you a few facts, I mean, ordinarily, the reviews look at perhaps a handful of institutions, but there are 11 institutions that were included in this report because we could basically embrace the ability to go digital and connect with more institutions in the process, including 3 research institutions, which is to some extent quite different from the approach we've advocated in the past, but it also reinforces that connection and that link basically to the entrepreneurship ecosystem, the importance of innovation. Part of that, of course, was the survey that we conduct with students, and in Greece, we had over 650 students that responded to the questionnaire that we sent out, which is basically the highest that we've had. So again, to some extent, that was reflected in the ability to basically go digital. Now, you're going to hear more about the report in a second, and you've heard perhaps some of the findings from Director General Christophidou as well in terms of what's contained in it. So I'm not going to elaborate too much, but I think that there were some important, really important takeaways that came through from the report. Digitalization, of course, the ability to be digital, is a very strong mechanism or strong message that comes out of it. The second, of course, is this notion of the increase that we've seen in internationalization. And DG Christophidou made that very clear in terms of just how important that's been. But that's been supported not just in terms of the osmosis, I guess, of the internal mechanics of the system itself, the HEIs going out there, creating those types of links, but it's also been supported by other stakeholders, including from the ministry, making sure, for example, that we can connect, or you can connect, with the diaspora to make sure that internationalization grows very strongly. One of the really, I think, important lessons that came out of the report for me was basically the importance of making sure that we do not adopt this one-cap-fits-all approach to the way that we think about entrepreneurial education and innovation. Now, on the one hand, we see, for example, that within the central regions, there's an awful strong focus on the research activities, and there's a real strong focus there, which is great. But also you see in some of the regions that are perhaps lagging, not in terms of entrepreneurial education and innovation, but lagging in terms of economic growth. There's a different approach there, the different approach that focuses, for example, on the local factors, the local ecosystem, making sure that there's an ability for the whole system basically to benefit. The firms to benefit from the university to benefit from the firms. And that ecosystem approach, I think, has been very central to some of the approaches that we see. And we advocate both of those approaches in terms of the way that we think about these things going forward. Now, you've also heard from the Director General about the fact that the work is not yet done. I mean, Greece has made huge progress, and I think that certainly in terms of ticking some of those boxes, it's really well equipped. But there is perhaps further progress that needs to be made on some areas. I mean, there's a need to continue to push this internationalization envelope. I mean, that's, I think, critical. There's an importance of making sure that within the supporting mechanisms that you have, entrepreneurship and innovation as a concept is also broadened beyond, for example, the concepts that are traditionally thought of in terms of business management and business processes. It's about making sure that it's ingrained in the ecosystem, ingrained in basically it's almost like a form of creative thinking. It's about, for example, elevating the discussion around entrepreneurship education to make sure that it's mainstreamed in a way that you can truly benefit from what it can offer. Now, from our own side, within the OECD, of course, one of the real strengths that we've always had within, what we've always reflected on when we think about the HE Innovate system, which is its ability for information sharing and learning from each other. I mean, that's a real central part and a strong core of the benefits of the innovation system. Greece can learn from others, and others can learn from Greece, and together, of course, you can strengthen that whole process. And to provide additional momentum there, back in June, we launched what was called this Entrepreneurship, Education, Collaboration, and Engagement Network. And then we deliberately chosen with those words because, of course, it spells e-école in French. I mean, so e-école in English, but it brings you the notion of école at the heart of what we're trying to do. And that network is a network where we're trying to make sure that we can continue to strengthen all of this good work that builds on HE Innovate, to also perhaps support the HE Innovate process by making sure that we can connect everybody in these systems, make sure that we have a place, a network, or a platform where all the stakeholders can come together, firms, civil society, universities, governments, local government, central government, and a place to continue to ensure that you can benefit from the entrepreneurial education system. So I wanted to perhaps just leave you with one final thought, and this may be, for example, sacrilegious in this context. You'll have to forgive me. But I was thinking a little bit about the beginning of my discussion, referencing academia. So it's a reference to Plato. And Plato basically, when he thought about education, mentioned, for example, that if I had to teach 3 subjects, it would be arts, physics, and psychology. And of the 3 of them, I would focus on arts because arts provides you with the skills to create better learning. Okay? So that was perhaps Plato's starting point. Plato also said, of course, that, and I paraphrase, but necessity is the mother of invention. I think what he actually said was that the need is our creator, something like that. But I guess if he was here today with us, he might say, actually, combining both of those things, I might take a new view, a new approach, recognizing, for example, that of those 3 subjects, I would now include another, entrepreneurship education, because like the subjects of arts and music being important basically to learning, entrepreneurship education is critical for success. And so I think that would be perhaps the new approach that I'd like to think that he would also basically embrace. Now, of course, it's sacrilege, it's in the home of Plato, but I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I'd like to think that that's the way to think about things. Now, I wanted to end with again, a huge thank you for everybody that's been part of this process. For me, it's been a really, really fulfilling journey, but I hope it's the beginning of the continuation of that journey, because for all of us on our side, and I think collectively here today, what we want to do is make sure that we can continue to deliver on the entrepreneurship, education, and innovation front. So many thanks for listening. Efaristo, and I look forward to a very interesting discussion. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Ahmad. I think you will find many people who would share the same view among us about entrepreneurship. Now I would like to call to the stand Raffaele Trapasso, who is head of unit of entrepreneurship, education and skills of the OECD. The unit has been in charge for the conduct of the HE Innovate country review, along with Giorgia Ponti and colleagues. We've been working together for 2 years. We're very, very happy to have you here to present the results. The floor is yours.
I have a presentation. It will appear.
It should appear.
Epanastasis. Huh? We are living a revolution. And this revolution is not as fancy as May 68, but is a revolution that is changing higher education systems all around the world. So, thank you, Kalimera, Raffaele Trapasso, από OECD. Δεν ξέρω να μιλάω ελληνικά. Sorry about that. It's a pity to not communicate in your beautiful language. There is, as I said, a revolution going on, and we are very grateful to the European Commission that in this collaboration with us allowed us to understand a little bit better what are the effects of this revolution about entrepreneurship and higher education and innovation in higher education by creating HI Innovate. It was a joint initiative. And today we launched the report of Greece. That is the 13th report we have done in about a decade, engaging with a lot of countries, very interesting different countries in Europe. Let me clarify immediately that this is not the usual work of the OECD. We are not with recommendation, best practices. We all together defining the future, learning together about how to improve the impact of higher education institutions on society, on economy. So we are learning together. And Greece is a perfect place to learn together, and I will show you why. I'm here representing a community of people. My colleague Giorgia Ponti, who coordinated with me the review. Lina Yannou, there was a fantastic counterpart in the Ministry of Higher Education and Religious Affairs, and all the stakeholders that engaged with us and accepted to work with us despite the conditions in which we operated because of the COVID pandemic. So let me start. Let me give you some information about HI Innovate. What is good about HI Innovate is that it is a self-assessment tool based on these 8 dimensions. Higher education institutions are not benchmarked, are not ranked. They can understand a little bit more about entrepreneurship and innovation agenda without the pressure of being evaluated for this period. There is an online self-assessment tool. There are the country reports done by the OECD, and there is an international policy learning network that is based on the countries that hosted a review process. So Greece is now part of this policy learning network. Learning because we are, as I said, learning together. The 8th dimension is a holistic approach, and this is a country in which I don't need to explain what the word holistic means, but is based on dimensions that encompass the governance aspects, entrepreneurship education in different forms, the knowledge exchange and collaboration agenda, internationalization, digitalization. So it's a very broad platform to build up. And in Greece, we focused on entrepreneurship teaching and learning. We focused on knowledge exchange and collaboration. We focused on the internationalization of higher education, and because of the conditions of the pandemic, as Nadim said before me, we decided also to discuss digital. The HI Innovate of Greece started in 2020. We are very grateful to the advisory group that involved the stakeholders, so higher education institutions and research centers working with us. We had 7 fantastic international experts, peer reviewers, Christos Kolimpiris, Angelikis Karavalitis, then Pedro Teixeira, Maria Manatos, Alexandra Iodas. So all these people that helped us to work with Greece. More than 30 hours of interviews reaching everywhere. Interviews that we did in different forms, collegially, so with all stakeholders all together, or bilaterally. So it was also an innovation in this sense. And 2 surveys for Greece, one for the leaders of higher education institutions and one for the teachers and students of entrepreneurship education to understand what kind of practices they were operating. You will see the list of case studies there. Some overview, a background about the main messages, highlights. So it was difficult to work with you because you run fast. We tried to understand what kind of policies you were implementing, and already there was another policy discussed. So the pace of innovation that you are now implementing in higher education is very high, and this is good because higher education tops the agenda, the reform agenda of the government. So you are currently, on the frontier of the possibility. And what you want to do is to fill the gap between research and innovation and between education and skills. And so you are trying to understand how to make this network of higher education institutions that you have in the country perform also for the economy and society of Greece. And what also characterized the country, that despite being a relatively small country, this is a mega diverse country with, a complexity in the geography of the country that we can see perhaps in the Nordics, in Sweden or other places where there is this idea of peripheral and remoteness. So let me start discussing the first. I want to start with the digital transformation and capability. Greece, you can see, is catching up. But what we want to discuss is not only the trend, but the first and second derivatives, in the sense that we want to discuss how fast this pace, so the gap is closing up, and the acceleration that you are putting in place to close that. And the health crisis is a moment that opens an occasion for the country to fill, the last miles of the digital gap with the other countries of Europe, and develop a digital strategy, as you have already done, that really incentivize higher education institutions, teachers, staff, students to mobilize in this digital transformation. So digital transformation is not to PDF, Word, or something that was written on paper. No, it's really a profound change in the management and the operational characteristics of higher education institutions. And we provide you with some considerations. We don't want to use the word recommendations because this is our considerations that we can do together. So invest. There is a need of invest with a domestically designed agenda that, while responding, of course, to the important policies that are set at the European level, recognizes the characteristic of the Greek system and measure and identify a series of KPIs to see what is the impact of digitalization on courses, so on pedagogies and research. And you can see that we provide consideration for both policymakers and higher education institutions. So at the level of higher education institutions, of course, there is this mobilization with the Bible, the digital transformation Bible that is the product of the government, and to provide actionable training to all staff in order to mobilize the resources and make the higher education institutions able to cope with digital transformation. Another super important point, entrepreneurship education. Vice Minister Syrigos, you said that the entrepreneurship was a difficult issue to handle in higher education system in Greece. What we see is that things are changing. It's measurable, this change. These are the trends in terms of research that is done in so publication in entrepreneurship and PhD programs that are developed in entrepreneurship research and implementation. So there is a momentum, and it's worth to invest on this momentum. And when we administered the survey on entrepreneurship, we had a fantastic response from Greece, so a lot of responses for the students, much more than Sweden, Lithuania combined, and Slovenia combined, showing that is something that resonates with the new generation of students, and they gave us good insights about the kind of pedagogies that were applied and the kind of aspiration that they have in terms of higher education, the entrepreneurship education. So what kind of consideration we can make? At the policy level, we would need to reward the activities of entrepreneurship formally and to leverage on entrepreneurship to activate skills. This is a good point because entrepreneurship education is about providing individuals with transportable skills. So it's very difficult for higher education institutions to understand what kind of skills will be needed in the future of work and society, but it's clearly that flexibility and resilience are a characteristic that all workers should have. So these soft skills, that the capacity to be problem solver, to deal with complexity, so the entrepreneurial mindset will always help. And then create a geography of entrepreneurship education in order to understand where are the activities, who is doing what, in order to communicate the complexity of the system. And for institutions, we see that there are increasingly courses and sessions on entrepreneurship education, and this is a good place, Greece, to start also the assessment of the impact of entrepreneurship education on the mindset of students, and we hope that we can do that also with a call, so we will stay in touch for that. Knowledge exchange and collaboration, super important dimension because it's the capacity of our higher education institution to engage with society and economy and generate value. Now, there is a conception of linear relationship between research and innovation. It's like coffee. You have this idea of percolation. You put the money in investment in higher education institutions' research missions. This should improve the research capacity, growth of the knowledge spillovers of the university, and then you expect to have overall economic growth at the regional level. Unfortunately, wherever we go, this linear system doesn't work, in the sense that you can see that academic publications can, for instance, in Sweden, we also observe that, like in Greece, there are, academic publications reflect the research issues of Harvard instead of the local ecosystem, because, the reward system rewards you if you are published on international journals, not if you engage with the local ecosystem. So the problem I have here is not moderate, innovate, or etc. This, of course, is an important issue, but the problem is to equip the higher education institutions also with tools and institutions and professional skills to collaborate with their ecosystem, meaning that research and innovation are not exactly the same function in higher education institutions. And the beautiful opportunity that you have, also Director General Christophidou said, is the cooperation with smart specialization, the capacity of connect higher education institutions' research with their ecosystem through new platforms, including smart specialization strategies. So, consideration. We need to create, or you are doing a lot of work to create this legal framework for knowledge exchange and collaboration. It's a good momentum. Go beyond technology transfer offices and spin-off approach, because there is much more to be done, and develop all this set of incentives for the academia to engage with their ecosystem. And in particular for Greece, collaboration is not only economic innovation, etc., but it's also a social impact. And we could see in several peripheral higher education institutions the important role they play delivering services to, to specific group of population. For institutions, encouraging alumni is something that we think might be developed in Greece. Create further opportunities for industrial PhDs, again, in collaboration with the reforms that you are doing, and push the higher education institutions towards the center of regional innovation networks. So sit with all constituencies, participate to the smart specialization strategy, because universities can create a neutral platform for their regions to mobilize all resources, because they are respected, recognized, and so it's an important amount of social capital that you can use to promote regional development. Internationalization, there is here a performance. Of course, this graph doesn't tell the entire story, in the sense that you have accelerated enormously in the approach to internationalization, is now becoming a strategic issue for you. You want to attract students, teachers, researchers, and so on, but I think that the way in which internationalization is done, only on research and hard science, loses the opportunity, for instance, to capitalize on the attractiveness of the country in terms of culture, arts, history, and these sectors are not very well developed. We had this discussion at the beginning of the week with, or at the end of the past week with Parliament, and this was one of the points. So there is a disconnect between what you are and what the data say, because you are a very internationalized country, the diaspora, the image of international Greece. You are a very entrepreneurial country. This is a country where people are problem solvers by nature, but this doesn't reflect in these formal settings. So thank you for your attention, and sorry for being so long. I didn't mean to do that. I just have the last slide here. So raise awareness and mobilize resources for internationalization. And let me say just at the institutional level to create a policy and a strategy for internationalization that reflects the positioning, the strategic ambitions of the institutions as well. So it's a work that has to be done at the center and at the institutional level together. It's a very complex work. So thank you for your attention. This was a team work There is also the Commission colleagues on the other side, Maria Palladino, Paul Simas, they helped us and cooperated with us in all the activities. So thank you for your attention. It's a pleasure to be here wearing shoes instead of sleepers for once in a meeting in person with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Raffaele. We'll have a 5-minute recess in order to invite our guests on the panel. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
we on? Okay, great. Great. So, thank you all for being here. We are here for the discussion on our panel. I would like to call our guests to introduce themselves. We have 3 guests here with us, and we have our 2 Secretaries General online. Can we see them? Do we have them? Yes. Okay.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
Kalimera. Good morning, Mr. Dimopoulos. Good morning, Mr. Kyriazis. Would you like to just introduce yourself and greet us to start? Mr. Dimopoulos, Mr. Kyriazis, and our members here. You can't hear me. Mr. Kyriazis, can you hear us? Okay. Can you hear us? Great. So, could you just introduce yourselves and say good morning, just for our guests to know who is here, and Mr. Dimopoulos?
Don't know me, I'm the Secretary General for Higher Education, and I would like to apologize for not being possible to me to join you in physical presence.
Thank you, Mr. Kyriazis.
I am the General Secretary for Research and Innovation of the Ministry of Development.
Thank you. So now we have established that we can hear you. Shall we start with Ms. Pramatari? Could you just...
Okay, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm really honored to be in this panel here today and really happy that this day today is happening. I'm Katerina Pramatari. I'm Associate Professor at Athens University of Economics and Business, scientific responsible for the Entrepreneurship Center we have at our university. I'm also a partner at Unifund, and I've also participated as expert at Innovate panel, so I'm really happy this is happening today.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Berkeley Smithkas. I'm currently serving as the president of the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education, and I'm also a professor of electrical and computer engineering at Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, where I served as a rector for 5 years. Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for being here.
Good morning. My name is Mania Mavri. I'm the Vice Rector of Research at the University of the Aegean. I'm Professor of Quantitative Methods. It's very honored to be here with you today and in this physical way. And I am very happy that we present the results of the Innovate case of the University of the Aegean. Thank you.
Thank you. Once more, well, I'm Lina Ioannou, I haven't been introduced, and on behalf of the Office of the Deputy Minister for Higher Education, I would like to thank you all for being here, and thank you, Raffaele, for having this session with us. We would like to share with you, before we start our panel discussion, we would like to share the experiences of 4 of our case studies, these being 3 universities. You can't hear us, Mr. Dimopoulos, you can't hear us. Okay, I think our technical support will resolve that. Okay, okay. We will be starting with 4 cases who will be sharing their experience with the HE Innovate review, especially with regard to 2 of the dimensions that we will be focusing today on: knowledge exchange and collaboration, and entrepreneurial teaching and learning. So I would like to start with Ms. Michalopoulou, Vice Rector for Research of the Dimopoulos University of Thrace. Can you hear us, Ms. Michalopoulou?
I hear you. The sound comes and goes, but now I can hear you. So I can start by thanking everybody. All people in the panel have helped us in participating in HI Innovate the study and has helped our university to understand and focus on aspects that put together the new goal for our universities, which is to promote innovation and to make it a structural part of our institutions. Have you heard me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So I will briefly comment and say a few things on our participation and the experience that we had. Although it took part about the COVID pandemic, and all activities took part through the web, and we missed the part of getting together physically and expanding these activities more within the university, thus having few of us coming in contact with the expert, which is something that we would really like to continue. We were able to gather information for all the elements that were in question, but I will focus on the collaboration with the other departments and the local authorities, and based on the priorities of smart specialization. And I would like to say that we had the opportunity to assess the value and the impact that such collaboration with our prefecture, local authorities, local enterprises has had our project for European digital innovation hubs on agriculture and other smart specialization funding has had on our both research activities as well as teaching activities, because in order to get our students to participate and our graduates to participate in these hubs, we had to work from the teaching to the actual research production. And we had, through this assessment, the opportunity to promote that and see the details that would make it a success story, and also move it forward to other activities. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for being here and for dedicating all this time and all of our case studies to the HE Innovate review. I would like then to call Ms. Samara from the University of West Macedonia. Ms. Samara. We can't hear you. Could you?
About the university and our experience with HE Innovate, but in case I can say a few words just to introduce myself. So my name is Elpida Samara, and I am an assistant professor at the Department of Regional Development and Cross-Border Studies of the University of Western Macedonia. Professor Bakouros, as I told you, I'm his colleague, and he will give you the experience that we had with our participation with the HE Innovate. Just a few words. I wanted to congratulate on this excellent event. I wanted to say a few things in relation to what we importantly was mentioned by the two speakers. I wanted to say that I fully agree with Mr. Ahmad that it is very important to create an entrepreneurial mentality through which the university, in collaboration with the other three helixes of the innovation system, will work together in a network aimed at developing innovation, as he said. The University of Western Macedonia focuses heavily on enhancing the teaching of entrepreneurship, as we believe this is the basis for spreading the concept to young potential entrepreneurs who are our students. In addition, we are making a move to integrate the concept of entrepreneurship into the secondary education by creating a summer school that will be launched this year. The issue also mentioned in relation to internalization, dissemination knowledge, and the interconnection of research with the labor market are also key objectives of the university's entrepreneurial agendas Professor Bouras will show you. And also I heard by Mr. Trapasso about fostering the alumni network in terms of improving knowledge exchange. Actually, this is something that we have done quite recently by developing a really interesting alumni network with around 2,000 participants now at the moment. And something last I wanted to mention is that the moment that you present now those results with this study is really crucial because we are working at the moment towards the submission of a new proposal with our university that has to do with the strengthening again of entrepreneurship. And what we need to do is to integrate the teaching of entrepreneurship horizontally in all departments of the university, and also to create a business accelerator for those interested in developing business ideas in the region of Western Macedonia. Actually, we have a real problem here in the region, since we are a region in the transition phase, as probably most of the Greeks know. We are in the post-Tigray era at the moment, and there will be a large number of unemployed people here in the area. So the recommendations we are going through today from this study are very helpful and useful, and we are totally going to incorporate them towards this proposal and in general towards our next steps. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very, very much, Ms. Samara. I would also like to call Ms. Mavri from the University of Aegean to share the experience of the Aegean University with us.
Have a presentation, please. Okay. First of all, I would like to thank the Minister of Education, the Minister of Research and Development, and the OECD and European Union for this amazing journey. And I mean that this journey was amazing because it was the first time that we discussed in public in the university about entrepreneurship and about how we can utilize our research result. This is a very difficult discussion, and 5 years ago it was very difficult to discuss all these topics in public. So Innovate help us to understand what actually we're doing in the University of the Aegean concerning the entrepreneurship. University of the Aegean is an insular university. It's located in 6 islands, Lesbos, Chios, Rhodos, Syros, Samos and Limnos in the 2 prefectures of the north and the prefecture of south Aegean. And we have 18 departments and 6 schools. The School of Humanities, the School of Social Sciences, the School of Sciences, the School of Business Administration, and the School of Engineering. Today we'll present you some of our results concerning the 4 disciplines of Innovate: enterprise teaching and learning, digital transformation, knowledge exchange and collaboration, and our international character of the University of the Aegean. Concerning the enterprise teaching and learning, the activities that the University of the Aegean support include courses on entrepreneurship, competitions and hackathons, summer school programs, and some events and visits to entrepreneurship bootcamps with invited speakers. And all these activities have been taking place about more than 10 years. We offer to our students a variety of academic courses at undergraduate and postgraduate studies. We run 6 postgraduate study programs on digital innovation and startup entrepreneurship, integrated program product design and innovation, 3 MBAs, 1 specialized in shipping, and 1 MS in strategic management and tourism entrepreneurship. And in the graph, you can see that we offer 70 courses, 26 at undergraduate level and 34 at postgraduate level. And in the columns, the red column presents the postgraduate courses at each school, and the blue one, the undergraduate course at the corresponding school of our university. You can see the School of Engineering and the School of Business offer the majority of these courses. We have some structures that, as all universities have, the Office of Internship Program, about 600 of our students work to public and private sector during July and August every year. And we have a career office. And here you can see some of the events that we organize. Some hackathons, the Blue Hackathon, which is for the blue development in the islands. Some events about the research and the innovation to the University of the Aegean. We ran one hackathon for students in order to understand what research means, because they don't know this concept during their studies. And we ran an annual day of entrepreneurship where some of our students work in groups and they submit an idea, a business idea, and then a committee of internal and external professors evaluate this idea, and the winning ideas are submitted to the Joint Startup Junior Achievement Greece Hackathon. Until today, we have two national achievements, the InnoCity and the Farmet. InnoCity gained the first win, and Farmet was the third, I think. And we have one startup, the Valley Meli, which operates at Karpathos and is operating in the field of honey production. And we run some summer school, as all the universities do. But what we are really proud of is about the Aegean startup. This is at the center, you can see the Aegean startup logo. It's a platform where students from the University of the Aegean or from all over the Greece can work together and submit their ideas. This platform is an online platform in 5 steps. In the first one, someone have to be registered and be a member and submit the idea of his group. Then we offer some services of coaching and mentoring in order to understand if their idea has merit. If the idea has merit, they can continue, and then an angel supported by a small fund, about 500 euros, in order to begin run their idea. And then we have a group of sponsors, and finally some of these ideas begin to develop a business. All these ideas are separated to thematic areas like tourism, environment, culture, transportation, ICT, social cohesion, and until today, we have 45 ideas were submitted. We have 300 members, 92 mentors, and until today, 15 ideas had merit, and they continue to grow up. And then I would like also to present you 2 more digital research infrastructure that we developed during this period in the University of the Aegean. The first one is the Aegean Research and Development Network. And the goal of this network is to create strong and reliable partnership with local, regional, national, European, and international actors. And the services we provide are some platforms that we developed. It's an Aegean data center, which is a center with data from North and South Aegean about all the fields of our interesting. Aegean Geospatial Data Service provides only geographical data. an Aegean R&D excellence platform in order to bring together all the stakeholders about the development, the research and the business in the North and the South Aegean. One platform about the learning that provides all the stakeholders with learning material. And finally, we develop an Innovate Business Center in order to have all together the alumni and the immigrants from the North and South Aegean. And we want to find out if they can fund some of the ideas of our students. The second is the Aegean research infrastructure that we call culture and tourism. And the goal is to expand scientific research in the field of tourism and culture for our islands. And here we develop some digital platforms. You can see the platform here, the Heritage 3D map, services of advanced cultural heritage, the digital tourism tank, VR and MR services, and the last one but not least, a platform about refugees. We have also a technology transfer office and the Aegean Innovation Business Center. And in order to sum up all this, Innovate was a very good opportunity for us, and that's why today we present you what actually we're doing at the University of the Aegean. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Last but not least, Mr. Dimitriadis, to share with us the experience of the research centers who were also part of this review, doing a twist in the methodology, as Mr. Syrigos mentioned. Mr. Dimitriadis, you have 4 minutes, please.
Okay, I will try to respect the time. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. We participated. First of all, I envy you that you are there with physical presence and not in the office like me. And besides that, we were among the organizations that are not universities in this study. Fourth, the Foundation of Research and Technology, Hellas, is currently the largest research center in Greece, very competitive with worldwide fame on the research activity that participates. We are quite unique from the other 2 research centers that participate in the study, in that we are regional in base and distributed. We have our research institutes are in 3 cities in Crete. We have a research institute at Ioannina, and we are lucky, and you are lucky to have a research institute in Patras. We are also having, and this is something that fourth is unique, we are having an organized technology transfer office, an organized, let's say, technology transfer organization arm within fourth, which is based in Athens, Praxi Network, of which I am part, which has, let's say, since 1991, the mission to bridge the research and the industrial world. Fourth was unique and the pioneer in knowledge transfer, in technology transfer. We have created the most successful academic research spin-off in Greece, FourthNet. And I think that we are also leading the race of the more spin-offs created throughout. We are lucky that one of our spin-offs was also funded by Unifund, by the one in which Professor Pramatari is also a partner. In order to be able to do that, we try to integrate as best as possible with our regional ecosystems. We're trying to create the tools that assist the links that create, forge the links that facilitate the links between the research world and the industrial world. For example, in Patras, as we're speaking about the region of Western Greece, we have an MOU with the Regional Industrial Association, and the person who works half of their time at their premises and the other half at the research institute. People are also participating in the regional innovation councils of the regional governments. And we are also trying to fertilize the ecosystem through participation with clusters. The experience of our participation in HE Innovate was to gain, in a way, we understood that we weren't measuring the impact of our activities the best way we could. And this is something that we learned out of this exercise. Apart from the things that we do, how do we measure them and how do we make them, how do we build on them in order to design better services and do better activities. Thank you very much. This is all from this side of the earth.
Great, thank you very, very much. Now we'll go on to our discussion. Raffaele?
Yes, thank you very much, Lina. I think that these are all some of the experiences that we saw. There are many others that are very important and very interesting. But what is that make them successful is an open question, because you know, we should understand not the recipe, because there is no one size fits all, but all the variation on the So I would want to discuss with you what are the variations of the successful factors that contribute to this entrepreneurial and innovation agenda at the local level, based on your experience, and if you want to reflect on these case studies. I'll start with Caterina Pramatari, that is closer to me, and then Pericles and Maria will follow. Thank you.
Thank you, Raffaele. Before answering your question, I want to just make one comment. 2 years ago, we had the first meeting in Greece about Innovate, and back then Innovate was a totally unknown word for everyone in the audience. And I am so happy to see 2 years afterwards that the mission has been accomplished. Not that everyone knows about Innovate, but Innovate as a framework has, I think, trained everyone to understand what you just mentioned before about the holistic approach, that there are many different pieces in the puzzle, that we need to link them together to achieve a result, or the result we all anticipate. And the second big, I think, result of today is that this topic has been in the top agenda now of all our higher education institutes and research centers, of the ministries, and of all the people responsible for that in the country. So for me, this is a huge success. And the reason I start with this comment in order to answer your question is exactly that. I believe what has happened in the country over the last 10 years is that in every university, and that was so clear in the presentations we just have seen, that people with more entrepreneurial mindset inside the universities have initiated various activities. And the results have been great, but all these have been different pieces of the puzzle, and what we need to do now is to link all these pieces together. So in the University of Aegean, where you presented also the slides, and it was so much more clear, we could see that many different initiatives take place, and by linking all, and the same is in our university or in various other universities, by linking all these pieces together and working in a more holistic approach, I think we can anticipate in the following years much bigger results, linking our universities with the society and having higher impact. So to answer your question, one answer is we need to link all these pieces together, and the second, I think, is what also comes out of the report, is to make sure we develop entrepreneurial mindset and competencies across the university, not only for our students, but also for our faculty, for our administration, etc. So EntreComp for me is the next term. I will mention that later.
We can discuss that. Pericles, allow me to give the floor to Dr. Dimopoulos, that is the Secretary General for Higher Education, not penalize people that are not with us physically. Professor, please go. The same question to you. What are the factors that you think that are important for the success of higher education institutions to connect their ecosystems?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Trapasso. Thanks also to the organizers.
Yes.
Organizers of this event. And I also would like to thank the European Commission as well as the OECD for including Greece as a country case study in the Higher Education Innovate series. It comes timely as we are in the process of finalizing our national strategy for higher education for the years ahead. And the ideas presented in the report can enrich indeed the national strategy. Speaking about the broader drivers and the framework conditions that can help universities to achieve the role of innovators, from my point of view as a national level policy maker, I would take a quite broader stance, if you like, a broader view. And I would first of all single out that in order the universities to play such a role, the first thing we need to have in place is that we have an open system that provides access to quality education to a large number of students, but students of all ages. Moreover, such a system must be well linked to the economy and the labor market needs, providing graduates with the knowledge and the right skills to enter and progress in the labor market, also including the private sector of the labor market and industry. A system where graduates can return to the universities to upskill and reskill anytime they need to in their lifetime. A system with an overall extrovert orientation, meaning that universities offer curricula that not only follow research and scientific developments, but also change and adjust to external changing needs of the economy and society. A system that is also inclusive to all social groups, regardless of their background, disabilities, and far from any discrimination, ensuring equal participation for all. A system that favors and supports cooperation with industry and enterprises, not just in research and innovation, but also in curricula and learning outcomes development through, for example, strategic partnerships between universities and industry. A system visible to the wider world, internationally competitive, able to attract students or staff from other countries, but also foreign research investments. A system that employs a holistic approach to sustainability and resilience, contributing to tackling climate change. A system that employs digital technology in its everyday operations. Among the necessary framework conditions for universities to achieve the role of innovators, I would single out four in particular. The first is that we need a regional distribution of higher education institutions across the country that always ensures a critical mass of academic units, programs, students and staff that enables and facilitates synergies between different disciplines and approaches, facilitates interdisciplinarity, broadening choices of students, and offering an enriching educational and cultural environment, but also able to build a dynamic ecosystem of innovation with the surrounding actors. Second, a governance structure of the system with increased autonomy and the right incentives for universities to care not only for students' competence and skills development, but also for their successful entry and development into the labor market. Third, the right institutional governing structures for individual institutions to facilitate them in their strategic management, development, evolution, and change. And finally, fourth, the right funding levels, but equally important with funding, linked to performance, as well as targeted funding according to national priorities and focusing on the strengths as well as the weaknesses of the systems.
Thank you very much, Secretary General Dimopoulos. I give you immediately the floor to Berkeley Smithkas from the Authority of Higher Education.
Thank you very much. As I said, I served as the rector of Aristotle University of Thessaloniki for 5 years, and I was glad to see that the mindset of the higher education institutions in Greece has been changing at a faster pace over the last few years. Being one of the oldest members in the panel, I have fought this fight for decades, and I can assure you that things are looking much better these days. So the things that are needed, in my point of view, are mainly two, and perhaps I'll throw a third one at the end. The first one is success stories. We need more success stories of startups that made it and originated in a university environment. Greece didn't have such success stories for a very long time. So our graduates wouldn't try this because perhaps they were not exposed at the university environment. And they went to another country, to Europe or to the US, and they were very successful there. But in the last few years, through some competitions, funding from banks and other public entities, a lot of such companies emerged, and now the ecosystem of startups and innovation in Greece is, I would say, thriving. So we need these success stories, and we also need incentives, and this is something that came out also as recommendations of the Innovate review. Incentives both for faculty and for institutions. And the part of institutions is taken care of by our authority because now in the set of criteria according to which the government funding will be allocated to universities, things like patents, startups, money from private enterprises coming to the university are taken into account. But we need also incentives for the faculty who have an entrepreneurial mindset, and they can perhaps form a critical mass at each university to take the next step and educate their students, help them transfer their ideas into products and services. I'm optimistic, but these guys who are younger are more optimistic than me, so that's a good thing.
Thank you, Berikis. It was good. I don't see my partner in crime anymore on the stage, Lina, so I will go ahead with the discussion, because what would follow is a magic wand question, in the sense, if you could have this magical instrument and decide the thing that should change or should be implemented right now, what it would be, Caterina?
Oh, okay. Difficult. I'm going to make again a comment because Mr. Mitkas once say, while he was rector at the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, he created the example that all the other universities now are trying to follow. So, because we're discussing about examples, and I think it's really important, we need to see the examples of others to follow. And the Aristotle University of Thessaloniki, in creating their technology transfer office, have put the benchmark there. And we are trying to do that also with Unifund, the fund that has been actually started in 2018. With a clear mission to finance startups and spin-offs out of universities and create successes so that we can have the ball rolling. If we were with a magic wand to change everything, and we all know this is not happening like that, but if that was the case, I think what we should be doing, and I strongly believe that, would be to change or help the mindset of the people that have the authority in the university to change things. So the rectors, the faculty members, also policy makers, I think, need to understand whether this is important, and you have contributed a lot to that, so thank you a lot. And the second, once we understand that this is important, we need to take action. I will refer to what I just said before, a work that had started with the initiative of Innovate in Europe, a work to define what entrepreneurial competencies are. And so my magic wand would be to give to all people involved entrepreneurial competencies in Europe, not just in Greece. But let's focus in Greece. What does this mean? Give the people the competencies to identify problems and solutions to problems, mobilize resources, which is the second pillar, and the third pillar is take action and implement, take the risk, and find the way to implement these changes. I know what I'm asking is not easy, but I'm very happy to have contributed to a training framework for the trainers in Europe to develop these competencies and these skills to people around, not just the students, as I said, but also to faculty members and researchers and other people involved. So that's on my side.
Thank you very much, Professor Pramatari. Secretary General Dimopoulos, the same question to you, magic wand, what you would do, the first thing you would change or improve?
I thought he has
Again, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Said that you have
the magic wand, I guess. You have the magic wand, so.
Okay. So the first thing we need to do at the national level is to finalize our national strategy for higher education for the years ahead, setting the clear goals and priorities, and finding and mobilizing the resources needed for that. The second thing is that we have already started implementing a new performance-based funding for universities. And what is important there is that we make sure that the incentives for innovation are right, and we need to monitor and make sure that they're always implemented in the right way, bringing out the expected results. Again, in the same direction, we have we are already in the process of implementing multi-annual contractual program agreements between universities and the ministry, a tool that will increase autonomy of universities and their role in their strategic development. Innovation will be part, the university's activity and role in innovation will be part of those agreements, so that they will have the opportunity to reflect and develop their own strategies. As I said in my earlier intervention, we need also to readjust the overall map of the universities with mergers and make sure that we reorient the system towards changing labor market needs for high skills, with emphasis on the applications of sciences in labor in the workplaces. Moreover, we need to enhance as soon as possible and increase organizational and educational autonomy of universities so that they can undertake more responsibility and have more room to develop their own initiatives and strategies, including strategies for innovation. Moreover, we need to mobilize targeted funding for research with emphasis on research collaboration with industry and particular emphasis on cutting-edge technologies. The Recovery and Resilience Fund can be a valuable source for that. Moreover, we need to remove all existing obstacles to internationalization of universities, particularly with new procedures for academic recognition of degrees, of foreign degrees. And finally, we need to make sure that we expand opportunities for lifelong learning within universities.
Thank you very much. Berikis, do you want to
well, yeah, I could add something. If I had a magic wand, a large percentage of departments and faculty in Greek universities are in the arts, humanities, and social sciences. Most of these people feel threatened by entrepreneurship and innovation, these two words that they think that leave them out of something that may come to the universities and diminish their value and their place in the university. So my magic wand would help these people understand that entrepreneurship and innovation is something good for everybody. It's good for the country, good for the university, good for them also, because new ideas and innovative ideas come out in every discipline, not just STEM disciplines, engineering and science. I think the university administrators, administrations have jumped on the train of innovation. We don't see a lot of objections there, and we don't see objections in student bodies as much as we used to. But in the University Senate, you have people who decide on which direction the university or a program will go. And in the University Senate, you have everybody, especially in large universities. So my magic wand would help these people get on board.
Thank you very much, because this brings me, Lina told me that there is one of the participants, Mr. Chrysias. Chrysias, sorry. I need the glasses. That has a serious problem with the connection. He apologizes for not being with us in the discussion, but I hope that there will be a possibility to catch up or not. No? Okay, because I wanted to go now in reverse order for the last tour of thinking about this mobilization, because what we have seen in the OECD countries, so beyond Europe, is that this discussion about SDGs, and especially the need to have a bottom-up approach to SDGs, is probably the trigger that we needed to say, okay, it's about mobilization. You need an entrepreneurial mindset because, as Katerina said, is about mobilizing resources. Do you think that this could be a narrative that could work in Greece in order to connect the entrepreneurial agenda to SDGs and Agenda 2030? So, Berkeley, I start with you.
Well, SDGs is another very dear subject to me, because we established in 2018 a new node of SDSN for Black Sea universities in Thessaloniki. I believe that SDGs is a great cause around which you can rally not just universities, but especially young people, young entrepreneurs and young scientists. Most of the people associate SDGs with climate change, and this is not the case, because SDGs, as you probably know, cover the entire spectrum of human activity on the planet. And there is something for everybody there, including, as I was saying before, people from arts and humanities. and social sciences. So, yeah, I fully agree that SDGs is a great paradigm around which we can build, we can transform higher education and engage students, faculty, and with the problems of society. Greece is doing, I think the General Secretary will mention a few examples later.
Apostolos, I'll give the floor to you to ask the same question, and in addition, if you think that the SDGs can offer a platform to connect higher education policy to other portfolios, including regional development, innovation, so holistic also in that sense.
Certainly, yes. Who is talking? Is that Mr. Dimitriadis or me?
Sorry, no,
we are both Apostolos.
Secretary General Dimopoulos.
We are both Apostolos.
Sorry.
Which one? You prefer?
No, you Secretary General, please go ahead.
Okay. Just to say that I fully agree with what Berkeley Smithkas just mentioned. I fully agree with the approach that SDGs can be a broad platform that can really help in transforming the universities, but not only them. And at the ministry, we have taken concrete action in that direction. We have established a network that involves all Greek universities, and we are working together trying to define and develop what a holistic approach would mean in real terms. And we hope that very soon we have concrete results out of this initiative we have taken with the universities.
Thank you very much. Caterina, now.
I fully agree, and I will give a concrete example. I've seen for many years student teams, entrepreneurial teams, young people starting with ideas relevant to their problems, like create an application for booking a table in a restaurant, and these type of ideas. And I've also seen that once you give challenges to young teams, they start working behind the challenges. So instead of letting them just solve small problems, why not give people big challenges related to SDGs and how to improve our society? And this has started happening with great results. In our university, for example, already last year, we started supporting interdisciplinary teams, so extracurricular activity for students from different departments, creating new teams, giving them challenges related to SDGs. These challenges are now work together with other stakeholders from the municipality of Athens and companies, etc. And we already see great results. All these results will be presented actually tomorrow in an event that will take place in Athens, which is just the start of a new process to engage stakeholders from the ecosystem, from the city, from organizations, from companies, and define challenges behind which student and entrepreneurial teams start working. So this at the end will help mobilize, let's say, and use entrepreneurship as the main tool to develop new solutions and innovations to address our main issues and contribute to SDGs. We anticipate the results of all that to be much more visible to all of us and everyone in 2022 and much more in the years to come. So I fully agree. Entrepreneurship can be, or SDGs rather, can be the way to develop entrepreneurial activity and mindset.
No, absolutely. Also because entrepreneurship is about creating groups, not individuals. And I think that, we always say at the Center for Entrepreneurship at the OECD that entrepreneurship is to make the world a better place. And, there is a lot of efforts that take for that. And so this mobilization part. Let me conclude. I don't know if, again, if Lina wanted to join this discussion, but let me conclude there has been a fantastic journey for us to do this 4 countries, to end the HI Innovate discussion for this biennium in Greece, despite the COVID pandemic, of course. We had prepared all our missions in April, May, June. You know, the Aegean University was going to be a very...
A grand visit.
Yeah, there were people fighting. I go there, you know. So we ended, unfortunately, to connect remotely.
Well, we can do a follow-up in
3
years.
We need to do Innovate 2 or 3. No, I'm joking. But the aim is certainly that we want to really capitalize on this experience that we have done with you. I have to say that both at the national level there is the interest to generate something that it can transform HI Innovate into actionable reforms or a process, something that can be implementable, and also at the international level. First of all, as I said, Greece is now one of the countries that hosted the review processes, so there is this policy learning network that can be a community of practice that is worth mobilizing, also to keep the pressure on the DGs, all the actors. And then I think that something that the last point discussed is very relevant. The challenge of our generation is to change the way in which the public sector works, and we are very much siloed. Even the OECD sometimes reflects the organization of government. So, but unfortunately, our generation is the one that is confronted with these transversal challenges that cut across poverty, sustainability, environmental sustainability, the way in which humanity relates within humanity and outside humanity. So it's a very complex issue. And this approaches of putting higher education institutions as pool of knowledge, social capital, initiatives at the center of their communities or ecosystems is an important action to give the possibility to this community and ecosystem to rethink their future in a path that is more sustainable and reflects a better idea of humanity. So this is an effort that the OECD and of course the European Commission are doing. The OECD is scaling up the experience of HI Innovate to the entire group of OECD countries and beyond. We are now 38, so it's North America, South America, Asia, so it's very well represented. So we hope that this community, our international community, will benefit from what you discussed today, what the experiences that the Greek government will put in place, and the OECD will be there to facilitate this continuous exchange of information, practices, thinking, to use entrepreneurship as a leverage to make the world a better place. So thank you very much for being with us today. Thank you to Vice Minister Syrigos for hospitality, to the Rector of the University for Patras. We hope to come back soon, later in the year though,
yes.
When it's to spring time. We'll
summer,
come.
it's better.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very, very much for being here. Thank you for supporting us in energizing, in activating the Greek community. Special thanks also to Georgia Ponti, Anne Rimmer from the OECD, Maria Valadino and Paul Zimas, who have been very, very, very supportive. And we are very happy that we have a strong team now. Hopefully, we'll go to the next steps together. Thank you all for attending today. We'll have a 5-minute recess and then we'll go on to the next session. Thank you. Good afternoon. We will proceed with the second session of the Ministry of Education for today. Our session is entitled Innovation in Hellenic Higher Education, the Way Forward. We will start with Professor Berkeley Smithkas, the President of the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education, to be addressing us about the evaluation of research entities in Greek higher education institutions.
Thank you, Lina. Dear Deputy Minister, dear Rector, dear Vice Rectors, colleagues, friends, thank you very much for the kind invitation to be with you today and discuss the way research in universities is evaluated by the various authorities. I'm Berkeley Smithkas, the President of the Hellenic Authority for Higher Education, and I'll give you just a brief summary of what this authority is, because it was established relatively recently in the beginning of 2020. It's an independent administrative authority, and its mission is to ensure high quality in higher education. The first mission is to contribute to the formation and implementation of the national strategy for higher education and the distribution of government funds to universities. And its second mission is to evaluate and accredit the quality of operation of universities. So it's the national authority for quality assessment in higher education. We maintain the national database on higher education data, and we collect the data from the universities directly. We cooperate with international networks and agencies in Europe and the world. And of course, we adhere or we use European standards and guidelines for quality assurance. The stakeholders of HEIs include a large variety of actors, starting from the ministries, mainly the two that were with us today, education and development, all the universities, student bodies, research centers, chambers, and third parties. We are a member of the European Association for Quality Assurance, ENCA, since 2015, and a member of the International Network for Quality Assurance Agencies in Higher Education. The mandate of HEIs includes basically four lines. We recommend on the strategy for the national strategy for higher education. We recommend to the ministry, and we also recommend the allocation of funds and, in general, resources from the ministry to the universities based on a set of criteria. We implement all the quality assurance procedures and activities for the undergraduate programs of study, and we will move on to graduate programs, and also the internal quality assessment systems of each university. And we also have to promote and evaluate centers of excellence in universities. More on that later in my presentation. Part of the quality assurance includes both evaluation and accreditation, mainly accreditation of all study programs at all 3 degree levels, including lifelong and e-learning programs and institutions' internal quality assurance systems. The accreditation is done by panels of external evaluators, mostly Greek university professors from countries outside Greece. And we, as I said, use internationally accepted quantitative and qualitative criteria and indicators. The Greek higher education at a glance for 2020, almost 800,000 students, including graduate students, roughly 680,000 undergraduate students, a total of approximately 20,000 academic staff. Half of them are tenured or in tenure track university professors. That brings the number of students to academic staff to a large value, 42:1. And you see some numbers regarding the research outcome. Since we talk about research, the research activity in Greece brings the country to, I would say, the upper third of European countries. If we consider these indicators, these are values from Saimago in 2020. So the Greek universities exhibit relatively good performance. But as we have discussed earlier, we lag a little bit on transferring that knowledge to products and services or to new enterprises in the country. The structure of research in a university follows more or less the traditional way, where the university is composed of schools which have departments, and there are laboratories, research laboratories in each department, and these laboratories employ or use faculty, graduate students, and external researchers. So most of the universities, if not all, operate in this way to start with. This activity is evaluated through regular evaluation and accreditation exercises, because when a panel of external evaluators visits the department, looks at every aspect of its operation, including research. And of course, all the international databases that record research output paint the right picture. HEIs also applies criteria. This is the new set of criteria that we use to determine the allocation of funds to each university. So there is a line of criteria associated to research. And in summary, these include, of course, publications and citations per faculty member, PhDs awarded per faculty and publications per new PhD, research funding in euros and the number of projects per faculty, the number of Horizon and ERC projects, competitive projects or difficult to get, the number of faculty in lists of highly cited scientists, and the number of positions that are covered or paid by these research projects. External researchers, not the regularly paid faculty in the university. So the full-time equivalent of these external researchers. And it's a new idea for allocating funds to universities. It's going to be applied for the first year starting in 2022. Some universities have also what is called the University Research Institutes, the ερευνητικά πανεπιστημιακά Ινστιτούτα, τα γνωστά ως EPI. Some of these research institutes are very prolific, very active. They bring a lot of money. Others are at a much lower level of activity. There's about 14, 15 of those in the country. So not all universities have a university research institute. I will get back to that later on. There's a new structure initiated about 2 years ago for some universities called University Research Center, Πανεπιστημιακό Ερευνητικό Κέντρο (IPEC). These entities, research entities, are like an umbrella center for institutes which presumably will be institutes in interdisciplinary subjects and bring people from different departments, different laboratories to work together. An example is the University Research Center of the University of Patras, our host, that includes 9 institutes. You see the titles, and they are not titles of undergraduate programs or departments. 6 schools and 16 departments participate in these institutes. 11 of the 25 universities have established these university research centers, but I don't think that any of those have begun operation. Most of them expect some kind of funding from or people, new hires from the ministry, but the idea was that they should be self-funded. They should be they should operate with the funds brought in by research projects. So there's the University Research Center and the University Research Institute. The University Research Center, as I described it, is a relatively new structure. The University Research Institute is an entity operating for at least 15 years, and they have a more flexible operational structure allowing for cooperation schemes with public and private sector. In a sense, the University Research Institute has more degrees of freedom compared to a University Research Center, but the research center is closely tied to the university, and the contribution of a research center to the university is better defined and stronger. But the university research institutes have to be evaluated, and they will be evaluated by HEIs, our authority. So we have set up a set of criteria in 4 axes, 4 components, if you want. The URI identity, the research activity, innovation, and technology transfer, the relationship with the parent institution, and the strategy of the institute for the next 5 years. And I will just say something about each one of those. The URI identity puts an emphasis on the information regarding the identity, the activity domains, the structure and organization of operations and services of the URI, its administration scheme and systems, and management, and all the issues regarding funding and infrastructure. The second axis, of course, measures the output of the URI in terms of the research activity, the usual indicators and KPIs, the revenue from patents and licenses, absorption of funds of competitive research projects, financial management, and the way they are audited. The third and important axis is the relationship of the URI with the parent institution. it is not very clear, and each URI may have a different arrangement with the parent institution. So we have to look at the programmatic agreement if it exists. The resources that are passed from the university to the URI in terms of money, buildings, infrastructure, and also human resources. And what is the contribution of the URI to the university? Because all these URIs were established under the notion that they will help the university improve, enlarge the research output, and eventually the overall quality of the university. And finally, the strategy of the URI for the next 5 years, including SWOT analysis, the business plan, the internal and external quality assurance, and the key performance indicators. So we have the university research institutes and the university research centers. In the law that established HEIs, there's a provision for centers of excellence. Centers of excellence in teaching, research, or even better, both. And these centers of excellence can be organized in an ad hoc sense. They can be interdisciplinary. They better be interdisciplinary, and you have faculty from different labs or departments working together, putting together a proposal, and establishing an entity that will achieve the development of high standards of education and research in a specific field of excellence. These centers of excellence should be able to have an additional, an added value and a multiplicative effect on the research funding and output. They are usually geographically concentrated in areas of particular development, and they have to interact with local industry and local stakeholders. So HEIs has to award these centers of excellence based on a call that is forthcoming, a call for proposals. The mission of a center of excellence, I think it's clearly understood, and it has to have an impact on the social and economic development, or at least a way, a path to assess this impact. The evaluation criteria are almost ready and will be announced in the spring, but the idea is that we evaluate both the strategic, administrative, and operational dimension and the performance and results of the participating groups, and assess their potential. There is also a new program. It was mentioned by the General Secretary of Education and the Deputy Minister, funded by the Resilience and Recovery Fund. It's part of the national part for education that calls for clusters of research excellence. It's a different line of funding, but basically the idea is similar to the centers of excellence. Under the Reform 3.25, the strategy for excellence, innovation, and modernization of universities that will be implemented by the Ministry of Education. There are 6 sub-projects listed here. 2 of those in bold are those associated with research. The clusters of research excellence and the universities of excellence. If you want, the industrial PhDs operating already at the University of Patras will become more widespread through the entire country, and presumably also contribute to entrepreneurship and innovation and the transfer of knowledge to society. But if we go back to research, clusters of research excellence, as I mentioned, and the universities of excellence will be funded in the coming years. And you see the budgets for these 2 sub-projects. There's about 140 million euros for about 70 clusters of research excellence, and about 166 million euros for 7 or 8 projects under the universities of excellence. They're going to be highly competitive. HEIs will issue the call for proposals sometime in 2022, and will evaluate the proposals with panels of experts from outside Greece with the help of ELIDEC, the Hellenic Foundation for Research and Innovation. So you see there's a new environment, a new collection of research entities in Greek universities, mainly because we expect to have considerable funds for research in universities in the forthcoming years. There are different sources that will fund research besides European research projects. So new research entities will emerge in the universities, which will provide employment opportunities to young researchers. We experience a shortage of researchers, young researchers in the areas of computer science, electrical and computer engineering, and a few other disciplines, but in most disciplines there is a supply, an oversupply of highly talented people. So these people will be able to work in these projects, but we need a plan or plans for retaining these researchers after project completion. And there's an idea that was discussed as a follow-up to Innovate to, among other things, to establish a formal research, a formal professional development path for researchers in Greece. Because right now the only options that they have is either become faculty or become tenured researchers in a research center, and there's many more of those who would like to see to have a career in research with the ability to grow. And of course, the final requirement or the final thing in this wish list is in everybody's wish list, everybody in this room at least, that the real economy must benefit from research outcomes. This is a national bet. As it was mentioned very early in today, researchers in various countries, including Greece, look at the problems in Harvard or of the large companies, the multinational companies. They don't pay attention to the problems that are local, regional, or national. It's, in a sense, our responsibility. Thank you very much for your attention and for your invitation. I don't know if we have time for questions, if there are any. Well, Mr. Minister, it's a complicated structure, and we have to make sure that we prevent double dipping for those who can write a proposal to any kind of call for proposals. But if we have just one line of evaluation, or one organization that does the evaluation, perhaps we can prevent that. Thank you very much.
Thank you very, very much, Mr. Mitkas. From a very full proposal with new things, we'll go to another new project. We're very, very happy to welcome Wesley Kroc, who is the Head of Education with EIT Raw Materials, to present us the second pilot call of the European Institute for Technology and Innovation for the Innovation Capacity Building in Higher Education. Do we have Mr. Kroc online?
Hello, hi everyone.
We do. Hello, Wesley.
Hello,
it's very
hi.
Very nice to have you here with us. So the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me to this event today, this launch event. As mentioned, my name is Wesley Kroc. I'm the Head of Education at EIT Raw Materials, and I'm also the head of the HEI initiative. Before I start, I'm going to share some slides to help me facilitate this conversation. But before I start, I want to just address a few points from the morning session. I'm really pleased that everyone agrees that we need to mobilize the entire institution in higher education institutions. So we're not only addressing teaching and learning, so students, professors, academic staff, but also the management, the administration, the non-academic staff, technology transfer offices, etc. So with that said, I'm here today then to share with you all an opportunity that your stakeholders can access and benefit from, which aims to address all of the topics that have been covered this morning to essentially help you operationalize these big ambitions. And this is the HEI initiative. So what I will do now is, hopefully this will work out. I will share my slides. I believe now you should see a big orange slide. Yes. And I think it should be in full screen modus. So before I start, I'm not sure to what extent you are all familiar with EIT. Maybe I just stop. Is there can you see my slides?
Yes, we can, but not in full screen.
Not in full screen. Okay. So let me just stop sharing and do it again.
Can you try again?
Yes, I will try again.
Are you sharing?
So do you see some slides now? Forgive me for this.
It's okay, this is a unique event. Now we see it.
And you see it in full screen modus?
No.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, very good. Well, these slides will then help me then share with you the information that I would like to give you, and for the opportunities that I would like to share. So first of all, I'm not sure to what extent you all are familiar with EIT, or the European Institute of Innovation and Technology, but it's an EU body that was established in 2008 under the two commissions ago. And it was established to enhance Europe's ability to innovate by really addressing the people, so addressing young entrepreneurial talent and helping them and providing them the opportunities to essentially transform science and ideas into real, tangible, marketable solutions. And the way that we do this is through a central philosophy that guides everything that we do in the EIT, is through the integration of the knowledge triangle. So really bringing together stakeholders from industry, from higher education, and the research community to think about complex challenges and together jointly develop and collaborate in order to create solutions. So we essentially want to help and empower people to become entrepreneurs, to help them to take their ideas that they have out of the laboratory and really bring them onto to the markets. And I was also pleased to see from the morning session that you were also addressing the SDGs, the UN SDGs. And this is essentially how we are also working within EIT. We're working through highly integrated knowledge and innovation communities, or KICs. And there are 8 KICs that are each addressing particular societal challenges that have been characterized in the SDGs and also implemented in EU policy. So for example, we have some knowledge and innovation communities addressing the big climate challenges that we are facing. My organization addresses the securing of supply of raw materials needed for the green and digital transition. And we also have other KICs that are addressing other key topics. But the point is that we are really channeling our efforts and our investment towards solutions to these large, complex challenges. So the HEI initiative is part of this EIT and knowledge and innovation community landscape. And as part of the new strategic innovation agenda, which is the legal document which sets the strategic priorities of EIT and the KICs. So under this new SIA, under Horizon Europe, we in the KICs, we in EIT are expected to raise the bar in higher education. And what this means is we're expected to create systemic impact in more than 500 higher education institutions at the institutional level. So not only at faculty or departmental level, but working and mobilizing the entire institution by strengthening the entrepreneurial and innovation capacity of HEIs at the institutional level and empowering them to really integrate with their local and regional innovation ecosystems to really create also this economic circulation also in these territorial ecosystems. And what we want to do, essentially, we're not doing this for the sake of it. We want to empower HEIs to become engines of innovation for the realization of a green, digital, and inclusive society. And to deliver on this, we've created in EIT and in the KICs, in the 8 knowledge and innovation communities, the HEI initiative. So what we want to achieve is we want to contribute to this broader ambition to create a sustainable and inclusive economic growth by reinforcing innovation capacity within Europe. We also want to extend EIT impact beyond the faculty level, which is how we've been engaging with HEIs thus far, is really at the faculty or even departmental level because of that inherent intrinsic disciplinary focus of the faculty and the individual knowledge and innovation community. But now we want to really then engage all levels in this education value chain. We want to build, though, on what has been created thus far. We've invested a lot of funding, a lot of time and energy in hundreds of projects that have been implemented by EIT and the KICs and really build on this really rich knowledge base thus far. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel is the point. We also want to unite partners of the EIT. So there are more than 2,000 partners that are members of the different KICs and non-partners who are not currently benefiting and accessing this large ecosystem in order to collaborate, co-create, and mutually learn from one another. We also don't want to tell HEIs what to do. We don't want to march down the corridor and say what works. We rather want HEIs to look at their own practices and look at their own opportunities for creating impact in their ecosystems. And finally, behind all of this is people. So we really want to ignite this necessary entrepreneurial culture, this necessary mindset that will systematically inspire people to transform their knowledge, their expertise into real, tangible societal value. So how does it all work? The way that it works is that we invest in HEI projects that are selected through open calls. In order to prepare an application as a response to these open calls, HEIs have to carry out an HE Innovate self-assessment to explore their innovative and entrepreneurial potential, and also explore how their application may fit in with the regional priorities. And on the basis of these results, the consortia of HEIs then create something that we call an Innovation Vision Action Plan, or an IVAP. And this IVAP really takes a long-term view towards innovation and entrepreneurial capacity. Things do not change overnight. It takes time within large institutions to make this shift. And at the same time, in this IVAP, all actors and levels within the education value chain must be addressed. This IVAP is implemented through 2 phases within a transferability plan that it illustrates how to scale. And extremely important is that we will formally support 2 years of this IVAP, this Innovation Vision Action Plan, but we want the consortia to also consider how post-project opportunities will be able to be mobilized and accessed to be able to extend the life of their IVAP towards 2030 to ensure that this long-term view is realized. And the actions that can be included in an IVAP are rather broad, but they're specific enough to allow us to be focused. So they're also clustered into different domains, which we believe address the entire education value chain. So from really the institutional level in domain 1, toward really strengthening partnerships and collaborations in domain 2, supporting the creation of business in domain 3, and in domain 4, really addressing the teaching and learning and ensuring that curricula are then also evolving to kind of harvest these new solutions to ideas. So within this framework, consortia can then develop sets of actions that would then address the ambitions of their Innovation Vision Action Plan. We've already carried out the first call. It was launched earlier this year in March. And the first cohort of projects are running. So from our first call, we received more than 60 applications, which involved 750 organizations, of which 320 were higher education institutions coming from 36 different countries. And just to give you an idea of this geographical spread, we do see that there is a relatively balanced geographical spread across Europe, although there are some anomalies with Spain and Italy, for example. But we do see that there is this broad interest in this type of program. At the same time, I think something that's extremely important to mention is that more than 60% of all of the organizations in these applications came from so-called RIS countries, or Regional Innovation Scheme countries. And these are countries which have been identified as having a low or a modest innovation capacity, really countries that we are also specifically targeting, in which we also want to particularly access this initiative. There were 36 Greek organizations involved in these applications, so HEIs and non-academic organizations involved in these applications. And we hope that we will even exceed these numbers for our call number 2, which I will share with you shortly. So we selected 24 projects in the end, which included more than 140 higher education institutions, more than 150 non-academic organizations, which I think is extremely important that we bridge and bring together this knowledge triangle kind of paradigm, coming from 32 different countries, totaling then 28 million euros. And just to give you an idea of the Greek organizations that were involved, there were 7 Greek 8 higher education institutions that were involved in selected projects. So in these 24 selected projects, I mean, you can see them on the screen, and there were also 15 non-academic organizations from Greece that were also involved in these selected projects. So really a good representation of Greece in these selected applications. So now I'm going to move to the future. So this is looking backwards. Now I'm going to look to the future to call number 2. So I hope these slides will be made available to you all, because here are some key resources that you should pay attention to and that you should access and also share then with your stakeholders, where all of the information can be accessed, and also where you can reach us in the HEI team to find out answers to your questions. So the most important thing is understanding the application period. So the call to launched on the 18th of November of this year, and it will close on the 28th of February next year at 6 p.m. Central European time. There will be an evaluation period from the 1st of March to the 15th of April. It's an external independent evaluation. There's also a call for evaluators, currently also live. And we aim to then have the next cohort of projects then kick off officially in July of 2022. The majority of the funding that is available for this call number 2, which is almost 50 million euros, will go to higher education institutions that are not currently partners of an EIT innovation community. The majority of HEIs in an HEI consortium must also not be partners. This is because we really want to bring in more non-partner organizations into the EIT community. I think what's important to mention is that non-partners will also not be obliged to become a member of an innovation community, but if a non-partner wishes to, then they can certainly make that decision to join an innovation community. So who can apply? What are the rules? Well, first of all, this is the HEI initiative, and primarily we are then focusing on HEIs. So this is the definition of HEIs that we are using for this particular initiative. At the same time, we're also then, other organizations are also eligible, public and private organizations, research institutes, public bodies, associations. This is because we also believe that we have to work together in this multi-stakeholder way to really achieve this impact. And our initiative is fully aligned to Horizon Europe. So what this means is that all information on eligibility for participation and funding can be found in the Horizon Europe program guide. So please refer to that document for more information. There must be a minimum 4 organizations in a consortium, but there's no maximum number. So it's up to the consortium to decide what makes sense for their ambitions, for their project ambitions. Of these 4 organizations, 3 of them have to be HEIs coming from 3 different countries. The applicant has to be an HEI, and the majority of these HEIs have to be non-partners of an EIT KIC. And then at the same time, we also then expect that there is a minimum 1 actor from another side of the knowledge triangle. So this is how the composition should look. And we also expect then participants to really take this broad geographical scope and also look to then involving organizations in these RIS eligible countries. It's also suggested to engage with your regional and territorial authorities as you're developing your HEI applications. And also, in order to build on the institutional conditions that have been established through existing consortia of HEIs, we do want to encourage these existing consortia to use that foundation that already exists, and also consider how to access and benefit from the HEI initiative. There will be also full partners and associated partners, the standard European lingo. So full partners receive funding, associated partners do not receive funding. Another criterion is that HE Innovate self-assessment must be performed by each HEI involved in an application. This can be done as an individual, but there's also the opportunity to perform a HE Innovate self-assessment as a group. The results of this self-assessment have to then be uploaded with the application. So this is really a hard criterion. Then I will explain a little bit about the phases. So there are 2 phases. The application is designed for a 24-month period, with phase 1 representing the first 6 months and phase 2 representing the last 18 months. And there needs to be a clear distinction between the activities that are planned in each phase. There are also certain criteria that must be fulfilled before moving on to phase 2. It's achieving certain obligations, which you can find in the text of the HEI call, but also the annual budget approval that would be made for this call. So in total, you can see here on the slide, this is the timeline of the phases and the maximum budget available for a project. So phase 1, 6 months, 300,000 euros. Phase 2, 18 months, 900,000 euros, bringing us to a total of 24 months and a maximum 1.2 million euros that would be available to a selected project. So I'm going to just share a few bits of information about the IVAP. This is the application. So by providing answers to the questions in the application, an IVAP is generated. So there is no template. And as mentioned before, the IVAP really must take this long-term view toward innovation in entrepreneurial capacity. Applicants have to then, through standard project management, just explain how they're going to then realize their long-term view towards innovation and entrepreneurial capacity. So this is the standard incorporating work packages, deliverables, milestones, tasks, indicators to be able to track results and progress, and aligning then your foreseen results, outcomes, and impacts to the existing EIT impact framework that exists. All of these documents and information is made available on the HEI initiative website. At the same time, which is, we believe, and which has also been, I think, established in the literature, what is extremely important for the realization of institutional change is having endorsement from the top management. So each HEI that wishes to benefit from the HEI call number 2 and submit an application must then also have endorsement in writing from the top management of the HEI. So we're referring to the rectors, the chancellors, the vice rectors, etc. And this must be secured. At the same time, we also expect that endorsement in writing from the top management of at least 2 faculties or departments in HEI, really demonstrating this academic commitment from the teaching and learning perspective. We also then expect a transferability plan, which I briefly referred to. This will then explain how the actions will be scaled. So you could even kind of look at the actions that will be funded as kind of seed actions or seed funding that can be used and contextualized to the entire institution later. So this transferability plan will explain this. And again, access, you have access to the EIT at the KICS. So we also encourage you all to look and see what already exists and see what you can build on and leverage already in your application. Kind of addressing this SDG perspective and the societal challenges that are also addressed by the different knowledge and innovation communities, we also would like for your IVAP to address at least the strategic objectives of at least 2 different knowledge and innovation communities, but it can be more. And the strategic objectives of these innovation communities are also found in the application portal. So you will have direct access and you will see how they are directly relating to the ambitions of the SDGs. In phase 1, each project also has to commit to achieve a predefined number of minimum KPIs. So just output results that you have to achieve in these first 6 months. And it's really addressing the startup perspective. So startups and scale-ups that you would then support in your projects, the students that will be trained and mentored, the academic staff that will be trained and mentored, the non-academic staff that will be trained and mentored, new partnerships that you will create and that will emerge as a result of your innovation vision action plan, and also new or improved support structures and mechanisms in your action plan. Then in phase 2, these last 18 months of your project, you would then need to explain and demonstrate how you will increase the number of these minimum number of KPIs in phase 1. So it's up to you as a consortium to decide this and convince the evaluators that you are then striving for this ambition. So how will it all work and how is it administered? There are 2 operational modalities. It's the sub-granting model, the standard Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe sub-granting model. And then there is also a standard beneficiary model. By submitting an application, all applicants have to be able to comply with both of these modalities, depending on which one would be chosen by the selected innovation community in the end. And as usual, don't wait till the last minute to submit your application. Don't wait till the last minute to start to familiarize yourself with the application portal. This is where you will find the questions that need to be answered. So I would suggest that you share these slides, you share this opportunity with your stakeholders and encourage them to immediately start to experiment with the portal, because if they have questions, they can just contact us in the Secretariat for answers. So what's next? I'm nearly at the end. Get signed up and get connected to all of the informational channels that we make available. So we have a monthly newsletter that we send to all members. So go to our website, eit-hei.eu. You can scroll to the bottom of the page, sign up to the newsletter. We will also hold info sessions directly related to the call, HEI Call 2, this week on the 7th, 8th, and 10th of December. You can still register. We have more than 1,300 registrations so far, so it's going to be a big info session a week. And there is also a dedicated HE Innovate webinar that is being carried out by Dimopoulos on the 13th of December. And with that, I hope that I've shared with you all or an opportunity that I hope that is interesting for you and that your stakeholders would also be interested in accessing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wesley. Thank you very, very much. It's been even more mature than the first call, and once more, a lot to digest. I don't see any questions online. Do we have any questions here? Okay. So then I would like to thank you once more for your time, and hopefully you'll have more Greek projects to present with within the next call. I'd like to go on to the next presentation regarding the new Erasmus Plus call of 2022. I would like to call Ms. Elina Mavrogiorgou, our coordinator for the National Scholarships Foundation, the national body responsible for Erasmus Plus in Greece. Ms. Mavrogiorgou will be giving us a general overview of the next call. Ms. Mavrogiorgou, thank you for being here. The floor is yours. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Καλημέρα.
Καλημέρα.
Ένα λεπτάκι σας παρακαλώ. Ευχαριστώ. Ωραία. Καλή σας μέρα. Μέρος του Ιδρύματος Πατικών Υποτροφιών. Ευχαριστώ πολύ για τη σημερινή πρόσκληση.
For inviting me here today. My presentation concerns the opportunities offered by the program for universities as part of the call for 2022. I'd like to remind you that in previous periods, because already we have the program for 2022 now, we have inclusion and diversity, aiming at everyone without isolation, people with fewer opportunities or inexperienced authorities. Then environment and fight against climate change, green journey, had to do with boosting knowledge on viability and acting for the climate and promoting the use of environmentally friendly actions. Then we had digital transformation, and the fourth one had to do with active participation, especially of the youth in democracy, and the solving of problems faced by local societies, for example, through Erasmus+. As regards the impact of the innovation of the new program, the first is that it has more funding for people with fewer opportunities. And of course, we have a more eco-friendly approach with, for example, using a train instead of a plane. The second innovation is that it boosts digital education. We have digital mobility to promote transcultural dialogue. And we have a combination of virtual and physical mobility and for staff and for students and for programs. In next year, we will have also the next call for mobility in general. So let's have a look at the deadline. It's the 23rd of February 2012. 2022 at 12 o'clock, Brussels time, so 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Greek time. So as a university, you can submit an application for that. You have a mobility or higher education thing for students and staff, an Erasmus accreditation for higher education mobility consortia, or international mobility of higher education students and staff. So you need to see which countries and which universities you're going to propose with. I'd like to remind you that in the application 130, this is possible for part of the financing to be given to specific partner countries such as the UK and Switzerland. As regards long-term student mobility, what's changed compared to the previous program is that the minimum duration is 2 months and not so up until 12 months for internships, or it could be depending on the study title. The new element is that they can leave from the first year of studies. The financing is every month, and we have added financing in every cycle of studies. So we have an additional sum given to students and based on the actual expenses. For example, if there's a student with a severe disability. Now, the new element in the new program is that we also have short-term mobility for those students that cannot leave or do not want to leave for a long time. So they can be at another place for 5 to 30 days, but this has to be combined with virtual mobility so that students can acquire specific points. They have 100 euros per day for people with fewer opportunities. And these are not only people with disabilities, but it might be people who have financial problems or social problems. There are quite a few new categories included in this group. In this case, we also cover travel expenses so that they can be funded. But if they choose a green means of transport, they also get another benefit for that. Now, as regards candidate PhDs, to cover their needs, in addition to long-term mobility, the program now allows them to travel for 5 to 30 days. That does not really have to be combined with financial activity. And graduates can also travel by submitting an application while they are still students. As regards international mobility, there too we have long-term and short-term mobility, which depends on the rules of the program. It's 800 euros a month for long-term mobility. Also, under the application 130, we can also have an application for intensive programs and intensive financing. So these are brought back with virtual activity and physical travel somewhere abroad. And there again, we have 3 coordinating authorities that can have comprehensive program for at least 3 students and assign 3 credits. Staff mobility for training is from 2 days to 2 months, at least 8 hours a week, or there might be staff invited from companies or other authorities. And this covers the travel expenses based on mileage and also benefits for those with fewer opportunities. Now, under Axis KA2, we have a coordination, cooperation synergies. So we will have a transnational plan. We need to have 3 organizations from 3 different countries covered by the program. But there might be a country without the program if it has great added value to offer. It needs to set specific priorities, and it must be connected to at least one horizontal priority. The duration is 1 to 3 months, and the financing has to be between like 3 different packages, either 120, 250, or 400,000 euros. So there's no minimum eligible number of project results. So you will decide the right activities to be able to achieve the project results you want. In this procedure, we have a coordinator and the partners, the equal partners. Depending on the target group, you will choose, for example, a university. You might propose something concerning school education if there's a university that specializes in school education. You can also include research projects in this. So when you aim for the results of this research to help you implement the educational material, if you want to be the coordinator, the application has to be submitted to us, to the National Scholarship Foundation. When that concerns education and training, the deadline for submission is on the 23rd of March. Finally, we have some central actions managed by the EIKEA organization where universities can take part. The first part is partnerships for excellence, Erasmus Mundus, so joint postmasters programs, centers of excellence, which have been used in a pilot phase. Then the academics of Erasmus educators, in which case the university acts as a training center for educators. The second group is called Partnerships for Innovation, including alliances for innovation, forward-looking projects. These are what we used to know as sector skill alliances, and knowledge alliances. So the universities have collaborated with the research and technology of transfer, forward-looking projects, and we'll see how these will develop, and capacity-building projects in universities and in vocational training, to be able to bring in other countries. We also have, we will see the call for European universities open in March, the call for virtual exchanges, aiming to boost transcultural education and collaboration in the countries neighboring the EU, and the Jean Monnet action, which concern universities and school education, and there's financing opportunities from the EU and financing of organizations aiming to study the European Union. More information You can find here the various websites. Thank you very much for your attention.
Very, very much. Ms. Mavrogiorgou, she's always available for us. We'll go on now to Mr. Paul Zimas, member of DG Education and responsible for innovation and IT, who will talk to us about the innovation alliances in the new Erasmus program, the second call again. Mr. Zimas, are you here? Great. Hello, Paul. It's very nice to have you here.
Can you hear me, first of all?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
Very good. Okay, so I'm Paul Zimas. Welcome from Brussels, from my cold cellar here in Brussels. I'm going to present to you the Alliances for Innovation, as you heard from the previous speaker. That's part of the Key Action 2. I work for Unit C1 in DG EAC, which is the unit dealing with innovation and with the mother unit for the EIT as well. And we also work very strongly with University Business Corporation. So we deal with HE Innovate, run University Business Fora, and we also cooperate, as you know very well, with the OECD on the country reviews like we heard about today, and on other studies as well, such as labour market relevance and outcomes. Let me try now as well to share, first of all, my screen. This would be the most difficult part of the presentation. Let's see if we're okay. Okay, I'm going to share here. Can you see now the presentation there? I gather you can, hopefully. There we go. So we start here. So as the previous speaker outlined there as well, under the partnerships, we have three types of partnerships. The ones for excellence, partnerships of cooperation, and I'm going to talk today about the partnerships for innovation there to strengthen Europe's innovation capacity. Now, what we have here is two actions. We have one action there on the right-hand side, the forward-looking partnerships, which are large-scale projects to identify, develop, and test innovative policy approaches. There's going to be an information day done by the executive agency on that on the 18th of January 2022. So I'm going to send details, web links on that as soon as I can to Lena and to Iki as well, so that they can give that to all of you. It's important to take into account. And the other action, as you know well, under the partnerships is the Alliances for Innovation, which I'll present today, which will be done in two lots. Lot 1, which are the Alliances for Education and Enterprises, and Lot 2, the Alliances for the Sectoral Cooperation on Skills. Also for that one, as you know, that the call for 2022 is out. So please note there'll be an information day sometime in February on that, where we'll give all sorts of details on policy priorities, how the IT works, how to apply, everything will be answered. That will be done in February of 2022. And again, I'll provide Lena and Iki as well, all the links for the meeting so that all of you are able to attend and join and ask questions as well. There will be full day events as well that will run from Brussels virtually. So a word on the policy context. As you all know, at the moment, we're very much in the process of rethinking the role of education and of higher education. And we're currently in the Commission preparing a communication on the European University Strategy. Now, there's a lot there, of course, but in a nutshell, we believe that HEIs, higher education institutes, are indispensable to deliver on the European ambitions linked to, for example, the European Green Deal, the digital decade, skills agenda, global Europe, and industrial strategy. Without the strong role of HEIs, we cannot achieve any of these objectives, and neither the necessary transformations in our societies. So HEIs will need to go through a deep transformative change in order to embrace this and become themselves agents of change for society. So one of the things we have to ask ourselves, I think, is how should Europe's universities look in 10 years or in 20 years, and how we can empower them to embrace institutional change as part of their DNA. Now, of course, everyone has the right to education and training. And the European Pillar of Social Rights has a first principle there for education, training, and lifelong learning for all. I leave this slide here because I think it's very important to show the centrality of the European skills agenda here, whether it be the skills needed for green transition, digital skills, the STEM for the European research area, or of course, lifelong learning skills to achieve a European education area. Alliances for innovation meant to reinforce our innovation capacity in Europe and will entail cooperation between higher education, vocational education and training, and enterprises. The idea here is to support entrepreneurial mindsets, develop new skills, facilitate the flow of knowledge between the sectors, and correct skills mismatches. And as I said before, it's going to be done in 2 lots. So firstly, lot 1, the Alliances for Education Enterprises. Those of you familiar with the previous generation of projects of Erasmus from before 2020 will see that this is a merger of the classical sector skills alliances with the knowledge alliances of the previous program generation. So these projects can be sectoral in one economic sector, or they can be cross-sectoral, and they can be strongly labor market oriented, or they could be non-labor market linked as well. For example, they could involve developing entrepreneurial mindsets and social entrepreneurship and innovation. Concerning objectives, we have there new approaches for teaching and learning, corporate social responsibility, entrepreneurial attitudes, mindsets and skills, quality and relevance of skills, the co-creation of knowledge, and building higher education and vocational education and training systems which are connected and inclusive. For the activities, you'll see in the program guide, there are many activities, and the list for the first lot is not an exhaustive list, so there can be many other activities you do, but they come under these 4 headings. They're the activities: boosting innovation, entrepreneurial mindsets and skills, stimulating the flow of knowledge between higher education, vet and research, and identifying resilience-related market needs and emerging professions. So lot 1. Currently at the moment, as a lot of you might be aware, we're doing the call 2021. It's under evaluation. We had a massive demand for this, over 300 applications about 300 applications just for lot 1 in total. Now the results will be due roughly in February 2022. The participation of Greek organizations has been really, really good. In all of the applications, there's been 268 Greek organizations involved. So that puts Greece 3rd in the list of European countries in terms of the amount of organizations which are applying, which is great. The new call, as you know, has been published on the 24th of November. And as the previous speaker correctly said there, the deadline is the 15th for applications is the 15th of September 2022. Money available will be 30 million in 2022. So for 2-year projects, that's a maximum budget of 1 million and 1.5 million for the 3-year projects, with the minimum requirements of 4 program countries in each application and a minimum of 8 full partners. In the partnership as well, it's important to note that you need to have 3 labor market bodies, for example, businesses, and 3 education and training providers as a minimum. And one other very important thing as well is that in each proposal, amongst these education and training providers, 1 must be a higher education institute and 1 must be a vet provider. Expected impact, very quickly there you can read on the screen, the cooperation between the 2 educational sectors there, knowledge triangle cooperation with its innovation capacity, smart specialization strategies with regional ecosystems, projects which target societal and economic challenges such as climate change or artificial intelligence, and of course projects which take strongly into account the Sustainable Development Goals, the Paris Declaration on Climate Change, and the Green Deal as well, all very central to what we want to do. Now we come to the second lot there, which is the alliances for the sectoral cooperation on skills, sometimes referred to as the blueprint. Now, these are the large partnerships for cooperation in one sector which run throughout Europe. I leave this slide again just to remind you again the centrality there of the skills agenda in what we do. Now, the blueprint alliances under Lot 2 can be a building block towards a wider skills partnership under the Pact for Skills. Now, the European skills agenda has some of the following: national skills strategies, the recommendation on VET, of course, the European University Alliances, skills to support the twin transitions, tools for lifelong learning, such as the stress on micro-credentials and the use of Europass. And finally, it has a framework to unlock member states and private investments in skills. As you know from the previous program generation, we had these blueprint alliances before. As you can see there, these are the current ones which are currently running from 2017 through to 2020. In 2021, these are not funded projects yet. These are just the applications we've had in. But we've had in Lot 2, 9 industrial ecosystems addressed in the application. So 5 there for digital, which has been very, very popular. 3 for the creative and cultural industries, and you can see the others there. Worth taking note is that, of course, we can only fund 1 project from each of the industrial ecosystems. And with the budget available in 2021, we will select between 7 or 8 blueprint alliances. So Lot 2, again, published as with everything else, with the deadline for applications 15th of September. A little bit more money available for Lot 2, that's 32 million in 2022. These are 4-year projects, which will have as a maximum budget 4 million euros. Minimum requirements, 8 countries, 8 program countries, and a minimum of 12 full partners, 5 from the labor market side, 5 from education and training side. And again, with the requirement, because we're trying to improve the synergies between VET and higher education, the requirement of those education providers that one has to be a higher education and 1 from the vocational education and training providers. From the previous program period, you'll be aware of the alliances. A lot has been maintained, from the gathering of the skills intelligence to see where skills gaps are, developing the sector skills strategies, developing and delivering vocational training programs and qualifications for the occupational profiles, designing long-term action plans to be rolled out, and of course the use of the EU tools there, such as the EQF and ECOVET. Work, of course, still involves a lot on skills intelligence. So detailed assessments of the current and anticipated skills needs, identifying urgent skills needs and emerging occupational profiles, and feeding as well into SETFOP's skills intelligence tool. Sector skills strategies have to be anchored in the overall growth strategy for the sector. They have to have activities, milestones, and clear timelines. They must identify and prioritize the emerging occupational profiles, and they must identify which digital and green skills are needed in which occupations. So what's changed? This has obviously been in 2021, but also this year, 2022, that's different from the previous program generation. What's changed has been the concept of the industrial ecosystems, which was introduced by the EU Industrial Strategy in 2021. So what we have now is the potential building blocks for skills partnerships under the Pact. We have a rapid response to urgent skills needs for developing continuous vocational education programs for the labour force within the first year of running the Blueprint Alliance. The focus on emerging occupational profiles is new, as is the reaching out to the centres of VET excellence, what we call the COVES, smart specialisation strategies for regions, European cluster partnerships, and of course the EIT kicks, as you heard from Wesley in a previous presentation. This is a complicated slide, which I'll leave a little bit on the screen for you to try to assimilate a bit. This is going through the different industrial ecosystems. So here you can see basically the different ecosystems, and you can see the different areas involved in each ecosystem. Now in blue, that's where there's an ongoing blueprint currently running. So that's an ongoing alliance blueprint from the previous generations of programs. The RT indicates that a roundtable has already been held by Schmidt and Breton to explore the willingness to create a skills partnership under the pact in the ecosystem. And when you see the tick, where you see the tick, sorry, that's the showing that the partnership has already been kickstarted. Now that some of these partnerships have been up and running for some time. So for example, one on aerospace and defense has been running for some time with CMET and with Industrial. The one for electronics running only includes microelectronics for the moment. There's one on mobility, automotive and transport. And in the shipbuilding, for example, that's being run by SEC Europe and also with the European Social Dialogue Committee on Shipbuilding. And we also have a partnership on renewable energy, but for the moment, I believe only the offshore is being covered. So I'll leave you a little bit of time on that slide just to assimilate it, because that's the whole world of the industrial ecosystems, which of course the Blueprint alliances are addressing. So in training content, you'll hear under this alliances the reactive response. So the reactive response under these alliances is addressing the urgent skills needs through the rapid design of continuous vocational training in the first year of the Blueprint Alliance. These involve the rapid uptake and the use of training programs by involving the main players, clusters, and networks. Then you'll also hear about the proactive response, which is the slightly longer term strategic approach. So this is developing modular VET curricula and training programs for emerging occupational profiles. So for the young, we have initial education and training and related qualifications. For people of working age, continuous vocational training and related certificates. It involves integrating key competences, green skills, work placements abroad and work-based learning, and delivering, crucially, on curricula and training. But not only doing that, also integrating work placements abroad and work-based learning. I think I've probably overshot my time, but I just finished there with 2 links. So first of all, please, after the meeting, don't all hurry and send me emails about this. You have the IAKIA functional mailbox there, which is very efficient. It will answer all of your questions on the current open call for the alliances on 2021. And there I show as well the link to the current program guide, which is there. So thank you very much. And I'll stop sharing the screen now. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Paul. We don't have any questions online. I'm not sure you have seen the form, the Google form on the website. Therefore, on this note, I would like to conclude the session for today. Thank you for being here and online. And we will follow up with the publication of the HE Innovate report. For any information, you may contact either the national contact points or the ministry indirect. Thank you very, very much.